Port Charles was unusually quiet the morning Alexis Davis unlocked her law office. The silence felt heavy, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Alexis had faced dangerous cases before, but something about today made her uneasy. She didn't yet know why, only that the knot in her stomach refused to loosen. Her first appointment was a new client, someone who had insisted on secrecy from the moment they reached out. No assistance, no records beyond the bare minimum. Even the payment arrangement was unusual, set up through a third party. Alexis had agreed, trusting her instincts as a lawyer, but those instincts were now screaming at her. When the door opened, Alexis froze. Standing there was someone she never expected to see asking for legal help, a respected figure in Port Charles, known for their spotless public image and deep community ties. The shock alone was enough to throw Alexis off balance. After the door closed, the client wasted no time. "This conversation never leaves this room," the client said calmly. "Not to your daughters, not to your friends, not even to yourself." Alexis bristled. "You don't get to set terms like that." The client leaned forward. "I already have." What followed left Alexis shaken to her core. The client revealed a hidden connection to a long-buried scandal, one that had been quietly erased from Port Charles history years ago. At the center of it was a falsified document, one that had changed the outcome of a major legal decision affecting multiple families and fortunes. Alexis immediately realized the implications. If this truth ever came out, it would rewrite history. Careers would collapse, reputations would crumble. People Alexis cared about would be hurt. "Didn't come here for redemption," the client said calmly. "I came to make sure this stays buried." Alexis stood up. "If a crime was committed, then you are protected by attorney-client privilege unless you choose to destroy your own life." That was the moment Alexis understood. This wasn't just about the past, it was about control. Within hours, the pressure began. Alexis received a call from a financial institution questioning a transaction tied to her name, something she didn't authorize. Then another call hinted at a potential ethics review from the Bar Association. Nothing concrete, just enough to rattle her. Someone was pulling strings. Meanwhile, Christina sensed something was wrong. Alexis was distracted, distant, snapping over small things. When Christina pushed for answers, Alexis shut her down, hard. "I'm handling something. Don't ask me again." That only raised more suspicion. As days passed, Alexis found herself trapped in a moral maze. She reviewed old case files late into the night, realizing how carefully the truth had been hidden. Names had been altered, dates shifted, evidence quietly removed. The client hadn't acted alone, but they were the last remaining guardian of the secret. Or so they thought. Unbeknownst to both of them, someone else was already circling the truth. That someone was Diane Miller. Diane noticed subtle inconsistencies while reviewing an unrelated case that brushed up against the same timeline. A missing signature, a witness who had suddenly recanted years ago. When Diane mentioned it casually, Alexis's reaction was instant and telling. "You need to drop this," Alexis said sharply. Diane raised her eyebrow. "Since when do you tell me to stop digging?" Alexis realized too late that she had revealed too much. Diane didn't press her, but she didn't stop looking either. Sensing Alexis slipping, the client returned, this time unannounced. "I warned you," the client said quietly. "Loose ends make me nervous." Alexis stared back, refusing to be intimidated. "You don't own me." "No, but I own the truth, and if it comes out, you'll be standing right next to me when everything falls apart." That was the real threat, not destruction, but shared blame. Just when Alexis thought she was out of options, she uncovered something shocking. The client had lied. They weren't protecting themselves alone. They were covering for someone else, someone younger, someone still active in Port Charles, someone's future would be destroyed if the truth surfaced. And that person was connected to Alexis's own family. The realization nearly broke her. Alexis now faces an impossible decision: keep the secret and live with the truth eating her alive, or expose everything and risk hurting the people she loves most. As Diane closes in, Christina grows more suspicious and the walls begin to crack. One thing becomes clear: this secret will not stay hidden forever. The only question is who will control the fallout when it finally explodes. And when it does, Alexis Davis might discover that silence can be just as destructive.
Alexis didn't sleep that night. She sat alone in her living room, lights off, the city glowing faintly through the windows. The revelation she'd uncovered replayed in her mind on a relentless loop. The client's secret wasn't just a buried mistake, it was a carefully engineered deception designed to protect someone who still walked freely through Port Charles, admired and trusted. Someone who smiled at her family dinners, someone who didn't know Alexis now held the power to ruin or save their future. The next morning, Alexis arrived at her office to find an envelope slid halfway under her door. No postage, no return address. Inside was a single photocopied page from an old court filing, one Alexis recognized instantly. It was a page that was never supposed to exist. Someone else knew. Scrawled across the bottom in neat handwriting were 5 words. Alexis's hands trembled. This changed everything. The client hadn't told her the whole truth, and worse, they had lost control of it. Across town, Diane Miller stared at her computer screen, frustration giving way to quiet certainty. The inconsistencies she'd noticed weren't random anymore. They formed a pattern, one that pointed straight back to a sealed case from years ago. A case Alexis had worked on. Diane leaned back slowly. Oh, Alexis, what did you step into? Instead of calling her friend, Diane did something unexpected. She made a discreet inquiry to a retired clerk who owed her a favor. What she heard confirmed her suspicions. Records had been altered, not erased, redirected, and someone had gone to great lengths to make sure no one ever followed the paper trail. Until now. At home, Christina finally reached her breaking point. "You're shutting me out," she said, standing firm in front of Alexis. "You've done it before, and every time it ends badly." Alexis tried to deflect, but Christina didn't budge. "This isn't just stress, this is fear." That word hit harder than Alexis expected. Before she could respond, Christina dropped another bombshell. "I heard you arguing with someone outside the office last night. They weren't happy." Alexis's heart skipped. The client had been there, watching, listening. As if summoned by the tension, Alexis's phone rang, a private number. "I see you received the message," the client said calmly. "You said no one else knew," Alexis shot back. "I said I would handle it, which I will if you stop hesitating." Alexis stiffened. "You don't get to threaten me." "I don't need to," the client said softly. "Your silence does all the work for me." Then came the twist Alexis hadn't anticipated. "You're running out of time," the client added, "because if you don't protect this secret, someone very close to you will pay the price." The call ended. Alexis finally did what she'd been avoiding. She went to Diane, not with the full truth, but with enough. "I need to know what happens if something sealed is suddenly unsealed." Diane studied her carefully. "That depends. Was it sealed to protect justice or to hide a lie?" Alexis didn't answer. She didn't have to. Diane exhaled slowly. "Then you're asking as a mother." That was the moment Alexis knew silence was no longer an option. But exposure didn't have to be reckless. It could be strategic. That night, Alexis reopened the envelope from earlier and noticed something she'd missed, a faint watermark, a symbol used only in internal courthouse archives, which meant one thing: the anonymous sender wasn't a stranger. They were inside the system, and they weren't done yet.
As Alexis stared at the page, her phone buzzed with a new message, this one from an unknown contact. Tomorrow noon, public place. Bring the truth, or I will. Alexis looked up at the clock. Less than 12 hours remained, and when the sun rose over Port Charles, the secret that had been buried for years would finally be forced into the light, whether Alexis was ready or not.